Now, Rocio, I can feel myself expanding in this moment because this is a subject after my own heart, right? Because this is the work that I've been doing with people for the last 15 years. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So during this process, right, we use specific psychic surgery techniques in line with your original divine blueprint. And what we're able to do is able to remove all the traumas that are included in the light body from those experiences, right? But we can integrate it with your physical in a very new way. So there even here is potential to work with this. You could, I believe, in the right set and setting, regrow that part of yourself. And this is a new area that the health world, the well-being world is just getting into. The regrowth naturally. I mean, yes, people are doing it with stem cells, but this is a different range of technology that is like technology that can't be quantified with the human eye. So I would be using those techniques with you in that situation to achieve the result we talked about. It's absolutely amazing and I love it. And, you know, and actually this ties me into the next question from Lisa. How might a traumatic birth affect the child? My mum shared the story of my birth with me yesterday for the first time ever, and it broke her heart. Right. So the reason why I got into this work solidly is because I had a child with birth trauma beyond birth trauma. And I had my birth intervened with, where people, you know, a midwife broke my waters, dove in and broke my waters. I was so angry at the time, right? And that combined with what the child was being born into and how, if there were forceps, if there were ventouse, if there was breech, all of it is going to have an impact about how you come down the birth canal. And that affected his, you know, I couldn't birth him properly because I'd fallen out of the bath 1 week before delivery, like that. So I completely bruised the symphysis pubic bone, and it was all inflamed. The child was born with a head like that by a C-section. He was not a happy bunny, and as a result, he spent the first few weeks of his life in and out of hospital, with me having the trauma of a surgery, but also he was not a happy child, and I saw that in him for the first 18 months of his life. Right, I saw that he never smiled, even though I was the happiest woman in the world. At least he was healthy, apparently. So I met a woman in the wilds of Wales, deep in the British countryside, and I took him to her at that time. Okay, and this is quite, I don't often talk about this story, but it was quite a momentous time. I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. Absolutely terrified that I was going to have another child in this way. So I take him to this specialist who was a specialist, advanced, highly advanced, beyond craniosacral therapist, who had these abilities to tune into the child's soul, reconnect them to their founder race elders on the planet, and communicate with that child, remove any negative contracts that the child may have come in with, remove the birth trauma in these early stages of life, 18 months. So I began to just see, after the first session, a look of peace over my child's body and face. She then began to treat me while I was pregnant with my daughter. My womb was in a very terrible state. However, with what she did, with the levels and the teams and the healing collectives out there, I managed to get near to a normal birth with her. But then there was just a little tiny bit of scar tissue. And it was lucky, actually, for my life that I had the second C-section. So in those moments where I saw the work that the woman did with me ancestrally to remove the frequency so my high frequency child would not be born into a lineage that would essentially suppress her, that was my motivation to train in this way. So I spent the next 13 years training with this woman at quite close quarters at very high levels. And we worked with the divine feminine. We were working with the removal of negative low frequencies from rapists, from men that superimpose torture in some way, shape, or form on the human physical form. And that has been my motivation up until now, up until this moment, and it continues forward. But in 2016, 2017, I almost walked away from it all.
Wow. Yes, what experience, right?
Wow. So my learning, you know, when I think of the amount of children that I've treated with birth trauma, I think of one boy with a cleft palate, right? And he couldn't speak, and he's looking up at me, right? And I could have wept. That boy said, "I love you, Angela." Oh, they're the people I want to work with. Ones that know, feel, and receive the benefits of what their soul is entitled to live here on this planet. So when I say I'm really passionate about women's work, oh, yes, I am. And I'm passionate about women being empowered within themselves.